In our travels in the land with no name, in a forgotten settlement, we find a lonely figure of a woman hidden from the world inside a great tree. Perhaps one day, a long time ago, she also set off on a journey. Hello world, I strike again. I noticed another pattern. I jest, brethren, no need for violence. I was working on a bigger project when I came across the topic of tree burials. Not Elden Ring tree burials, but real-life customs. It was this really cool painting by Leslie Peterson Sapp, an Oregon-based artist, that introduced me to the Actwad girl, mummified remains of a young woman who lived on the territory of modern Actwad in Denmark over 3,400 years ago. She was found in a log coffin along with some personal belongings, among which stands out this thick bronze belt plate adorned with solar symbols. Reading more about log coffin burials and consequently tree burials reminded me of a topic from the game that I have a lot of thoughts about that I have never shared. So I invite you today to discuss the shaman lady in the tree, commonly known as the grandmother. I don't have one straight answer as to who she was, and frankly it wouldn't be Elden Ring if I did, but I have prepared 4 theories inspired by real-life culture and traditions that I would like to present. Based on my research, she could be a statue of an important character, a real person, either mummified or petrified. She could be a tree herself, or her presence can be an homage to other FromSoft games.
Не такие вещи и то забывали. Все глупости и подлости род человеческий уже совершил, и теперь только повторяет их. Все на круге своя. И кружится, и кружится. Если бы Иисус снова на землю пришел, его бы снова распяли.
The most down-to-earth hypothesis would be that she is a statue. The object itself is quite hidden by the grass and tree roots, but from this highly detailed model scan posted by Zlovsky on Twitter, we can see the gray material and the way textiles fold, and all that reminds me of the appearance of other statues we commonly see in the game. Another similar object located near Bonnie Village, where we learned the local gesture of prayer, is headless, and the way it's decapitated really looks like the vandalized statues of Queen Marika. If we compare these two to the multiple withered carcasses of the hornsent, we notice that the material of the body, the fabrics, even the way headless hornsent look around the neck area, it's clear that these objects are different in nature.
Yet despite all this attention to detail, a quick inspection of his back half reveals he doesn't have an anus. It's a baffling omission.
So, if this is indeed a statue, who does it portray? Based on the signature hairstyle and the item conveniently placed near it, it is likely that it was made after Marika herself. Many people pointed out that regular statues of Marika as the queen show her with one of the braids cut. It makes sense that before she departed from the Shaman Village and left one of her braids as the offering, she would have been portrayed with this hairstyle. Yes, indeed, I can read, and I know that the offering was made to the grandmother, but it doesn't say that the statue is the grandmother. Marika made an offering to either an elder of the village, a local deity, her own grandmother, but the environmental storytelling here is the progression, and it's also underlined by the pose. From the kneeling pose of adoration, the symbol known to human culture since the times most ancient, for example the depictions of Mother Goddess, and Proto-Indo-European sphere to the more classic orient you may know from Christian iconography, or as the gesture used by Christian priests during the Mass. Marika can also be seen portrayed like the two other canonically Christian concepts, as Madonna Eleusa, a traditional depiction of Virgin Mary, with Child Christ nestled against her cheek as the sign of tenderness, and finally Volto Santo, a specific depiction of crucified Christ dressed in tunic with golden belt. If we look at the shaman's lady statue as the statue of Marika before her ascension, in a pleading, praying pose, as her people were victims of genocide from the neighboring tribes, then Christian iconography is a logical lens through which we can interpret her journey. After all, as a game succeeding many that were inspired by medieval European cultures, Elden Ring also bears many motifs from the main belief of that era, like the monstrance face of Lord Goldmask, or more items inspired by a traditional iconography we see in Leyndell. That to say, I do not exclude the possibility that the statue could have been of another person who was venerated in the shaman villages of Shadow Altus. If we go this far, the hairstyle could have been common for this tribe, and the pose could just portray a religious rite. Kneeling statues are common in the real-world art, for example, ancient Egyptian ones, or the Veiled Vestal by Raphael Monti. To conclude, it could have been simply representing the traditional attire and prayer of the shaman women. So, why is the statue inside of a tree? What, you thought I would move on to the next theory? No, Mr. Fish.
Today, I'm thinking about trees and how beautiful they are and how important they are.
Firstly, a statue could have been put in a tree due to the sacredness of the tree itself, from Kodama, Shinto spirits of the trees, to the pagan idols. Many cultures of the world believed in the spiritual powers of great trees, and since we're talking about the sacred trees, perhaps you have seen my video about the Shadow Tree Tower and Glastonbury Tor. Well, after making that video, I fell into an even deeper rabbit hole. Not only the inspiration behind the tower and the chalice were taken from that area and the legends surrounding the place, but also the shadow tree shape itself, I believe, was influenced by Glastonbury thorn, the legendary tree that was believed to have grown from the staff of Joseph of Arimathea and associated with the arrival of Christianity in Britain. And have you ever seen what the hill itself looks like? Boom. Well, the tree in the Shaman Village honestly does not appear very special, so my second guess is that the statue might have been hidden by the villagers, so it is not destroyed by the horn scent, an attempt to prevent their full cultural erasure. Alas, in the end, this statue outlived anyone who knew its real identity. You will forget the world, and the world will forget you. Or is it really a statue? The second best hypothesis would be that the lady under the tree is a mummified shaman from the village. Her complexion may suggest a certain level of decay, and it's hard to distinguish if it's real hair covering her head, as we know she has braids under it, or if these are the roots of the tree stylized this way. I am not including any supporting images out of respect for the deceased people, but mummies of young women and girls with their long hair, sometimes braided, have been found around the world. A more famous example would be the Peruvian Ice Lady, the shaman woman who could have been the elder of the community, which is the only acceptable case in which I allow to call this pretty girl a grandma, could have been laid to rest in the trunk of this tree as a reference to tree burials, with which we started this discussion. I remember when I was a kid, I learned about Amar Bharati, an Indian ascetic who raised his hand in devotion to Shiva, which resulted in its atrophy. Reading more about the practice led me to the discovery of the concept of self-mummification. A well-known instance is Tibetan monk Sangha Tenzin, who sacrificed himself to save his village from scorpions. It is believed that he is still somewhat alive, and the mummy's hair and nails keep growing. In Japanese Buddhism, this practice is known as Sokushin Butsu, and it includes a long preparation before the self-sacrifice can take place, which would include mokujiki, a special diet that literally means eating a tree. If we theorize that this shaman woman performed Sokushin Butsu or a similar practice, it seems fitting that she spent her last days as an ascetic in a tree hole and passed away in meditation. The shamans of Marika's village are one of the most mysterious practitioners in the game's universe, so if this was the case, it can help understand their culture. Another less likely alternative is that it was a real person who was petrified, which kinda fits the tree aesthetic, but lacks any other environmental clues, except the argument about the material of this object. In Turkic mythology, there is a concept of the Great Mother. Kubai, or Mother Kubai, she is called. Half naked to the waist, the bottom is like tree roots. In some Turkic traditions, Kubai lives in a tree and is believed to be a protector of children. The sacred, life-giving water flows from her tree. This belief was important in shamanic tradition, and the umbilical cord was believed to be the way the child was connected to the Great Mother. The lady in the tree could have been a deity who shamans worshipped that was materially a part of the tree itself. The legend about Mother Kubai is the closest possible mythological prototype to Elden Ring concepts I have ever discovered. It is, however, hard to find information about, and the information itself can also be confusing due to variations of pantheons and generally lack of accessible research or even surviving artifacts. For example, Mother Kubai can be mistaken for Umay, the Turkic fertility goddess, whose name in different languages can mean placenta, uterus, birth. She is depicted with golden hair and always with a baby in her hands. Aside from being part of the tree from the start, this could have also been a person turned into one, like in the Greek myth about Baucis and Philemon, who were the only people in their town to show hospitality to disguised Zeus and Hermes. In return, the gods saved the couple from the flood they unleashed on the place to punish the unwelcoming people. They turned their house into a temple, and Baucis and Philemon asked to forever be priests of that temple and die together on the same day. Their wish was granted, and after a long life, they became two trees, a linden and an oak that grew near the temple. The story here shows a common theme of a person being transformed by a god or another powerful entity. The tale about Daphne, who became a laurel tree, or the Arthurian cycle where legendary Merlin was bound within a tree by the Lady of the Lake. There are many examples that can provide us with an explanation of how this person ended up inside of the tree. However, compared to more realistic hypotheses, this one lacks any lore connections to the gods of the lands between. It sort of needs to become credible. Finally, the Shaman Lady may be an homage to Dark Souls series. There are multiple characters in these video games that have a more chaotic tree-like design. What I mean here is that the ulcerated trees, the tree avatars, the guardians, all have more smooth tree parts, but the way many characters look like in Dark Souls 3, for example, shows a more messy appearance with tons of tiny roots and grass and branches. What specifically caught my attention were the birch women. Their design is a merge of a female and a tree, and the object in the Shaman Village appears to be a combination of two as well. There also is a motherly undertone to birch women, specifically in the painted world of Ariandel in Dark Souls 3, where one of these creatures can be found protecting a small body, from which we get the Snap Freeze sorcery. The one created by young Sullivan, who was yet to leave his homeland forever to, usurp power, put spells on people to manipulate them, and also be a body to a formless cosmic goo that ate gods. Classic. There seems to be cut content related to this area that suggests the maternal relation of the tree creature to the person hiding behind it. Well, as much as I like to dream about similarities between the painted world and the realm of shadow, the painter and the shamans, and of course, home, I believe the possibility that the lady under the tree is a continuation of Dark Souls 3 motifs is the least likely on today's list of theories. Whether she is a real person or it is a statue of she who was one, I believe this is an important detail in the lore of Shadow of the Earth Tree that tells us more about the people who inhabited Shadow Alto's villages, how they dressed, how they prayed. It could have been Marika herself, her ancestor, or elder of the village. All we know is she is the very last memory of this lost culture. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I am currently working on a bigger project. Frankly, there isn't too much left that I have to say when it comes to my obsession with Elden Ring. I do have material from prior research for perhaps 3 or 4 long-format videos, but I want to have this conversation with my small audience and give you a heads up that there might be a change in the future. I want to continue my journey of parallelism and spreading falsehoods online, but I also want to share more art and personal projects. If you care, please let me know if you would like to see any specific content made by me. I could look into history and art behind different video games. We can do more yapping videos on life-related topics, but ultimately, winter is coming. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I really hope to see you in my next video.